during that stream with the pyramid that we had here, I said, do you want to make our weekly dungeon in this uncovered pyramid? Wouldn't that be neat? And that set the roots for what we're going to do now, right? So we generated all of this in our map session. We made a map using MS Paint because that is the tool professionals use. Thank you. All professional DMs use MS Paint. That's a biased opinion. And so I wanted to start the process here of going through this dungeon. If you were to make a dungeon based on this circumstance, how would you run it? What would you consider for a dungeon like this? And let me go over to it here. Okay. When you're planning, start off with some rough sketches. Get a broad concept, get an idea, get a feel for it, right? You had an initial idea and it had that cool factor. Yeah, a formerly underwater pyramid, that sounds great, let's roll with it. So here I re-sketched out the region, and I was looking at it. Okay, so here's the basin of a lake, a little bit of mud here, so this is probably like the depth of the lake, so it's still kind of wet. Here's the dam, so it's still kind of wet and muddy along here. Here's a little island. This is what had the petrified trees, or the awakened trees. We haven't really decided which one, and the dungeon might help figure that out. And I drew the pyramid, and I said, well, if we have a little lake, how deep is the lake, and therefore how high should the pyramid be? Well, if the entrance is sitting on the lake bed, right, if the water drained out, the former lake level would have been at or very near the top to show that at one point, like, there's a little island or something in the middle of this lake. And I thought, all right, well, let's put a little reverse pyramid on top to make what would look like a little artificial island. Now, why would the creators of this pyramid have a little artificial island on top of a pyramid? You know, for dirt and trees and plants and grass and mosses and whatnot. Well, that could be something to figure out in the course of the dungeon. But it would help disguise the pyramid under the water, right? Because if you've lived in the area and you just know that there's there's some stone and it has a bunch of dirt and there's trees and everything living on top, especially if you're not really a curious people or you're not very nautical, so you don't even really go out to investigate. Heck, this is probably just a little like 20, 30 feet in diameter island anyway in the middle. So who's going to live out there? So the water level sunk. Aha. But our pyramid, if this is 60 feet high, I mean, 60's for a lake, depending on the lakes around you, or if you've looked up the depth of any of the Great Lakes, or if we look at, how deep is Lake Nicaragua or Victoria over in Africa. What are some other notable lakes around the world? You could go down south to Florida, Lake Okeechobee. You know, how deep are they in for the circumstances that they exist? So I said, all right, let's make this about a 60-foot deep lake. So every level of the pyramid here is going to be 20 feet. When it's going to lead to the top. But having 3 levels to a dungeon, I didn't feel like that would be enough, especially because every level is going to be getting smaller as you ascend. And I didn't want everyone to just be able to go down yet, because a part of making a dungeon is also telling a story. People use this place for reasons. #reasons. What were those reasons? Again, something to explore. So I said, all right, let's put 3 more levels going all the way down, and this will be built down into the lake bed itself. So maybe at one point in time, this was actually ground level, and then over time, lake sediment built up, or it was just built down into the mud. If so, who would do such a thing? Why? Well, what if, as a concept, again, ask yourself questions as a DM. This is a cool idea. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Okay, now why? And actually, Technotron, I was having a conversation with Technotron. I don't know if he's in here. I don't see him. Technotron and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, even today. And as a DM especially, ask yourself why. Because if you don't, your players will, and you're going to be caught unawares. Or you're going to be there like, well, I don't want to tell them I thought it would be cool to have 3 levels of a pyramid underneath the lake bed. You could if you want. But presumably you'd like to look like a storyteller that, no, that everything has a reason. I can explain this. So go, as Technotron put it, it's the 3 whys. So you say, there's a pyramid. Okay, why is there a pyramid? Why is it in a lake? Why is half of it under the silt? If you can answer those questions, you've built a great core of lore around your dungeon. Even if a dungeon was built just to be a death trap, why? Was there an invading force that needed to be bottlenecked through a meat grinder? Someone spent years and years of labor and toil and blood and planning and everything in order to make it. And I thought, okay, so if we have this, if we have kind of a mysterious pyramid, it has to deal with, water and dirt and all this. While we were talking about having a mummy be the final boss, and we still can use one, wouldn't it be interesting if this was a Fey-related pyramid instead of an undead-themed pyramid? And instead of the elements, maybe it features the seasons instead. Not that Fey don't interact with elements. Elements are done quite often, though seasons would be very interesting, and it could lead to a lot of exploration and a lot of opportunity for you as the DM to describe things a little bit more vividly, with maybe less intrinsic lethality. But if you want to replace seasons with elements, you can do that as well. And some kind of a power. Who designed this? If we're thinking as DMs, because this is effectively a DM stream, would this reveal at the end of the pyramid, they defeat this this mummy, who's not necessarily a mummy, but is a mummy. Would this open up an Archfey for a Fey Pact? Would this open up a favor? Or even earn ire, depending on what the choices of the players are in here? So here's the 6 levels. Floor 1, plundered, and we're going to set up the mystery. Right? They walk in here, everything's kind of squishy, it's the bottom of the lake. They're going to find that it's plundered, set up the mystery. That's the point of the floor. Everything else that we describe is going to support it, but it's going to be decorative. Floor 2, oh, there's a crime scene. There's battered looters and possibly a fight. So now we've escalated things a little bit. We set the tone in floor 1. Now they're in floor 2 and things are a little bit more contained. But there's a possibility of a skirmish, and definitely someone made a mistake up here. Then floor 3. Congratulations, the players thought they made it to the top of the pyramid. Now we know that we're only going to put in a mid-boss. There's going to be some kind of a mystery, and then that's going to descend. We're going to descend to basement 1 from floor 3. Oh, there's more to this place. And oh, none of the looters made it past the 2nd floor. Uh-oh, Chemison took a hit, and thank you very much for that follow. Welcome aboard. How would we... Do you want me to call you Mega? How would you like me to pronounce the name? Well, I'll say Mega. I mean, I'll look for you over here and comment. But thank you for the follow, Mega. And so now, basement 1, 2, and 3. I wrote down concepts, and by the way, what I wanted to work on with all of you here is going to be basement 1, 2, and 3. I want to set things up and show the direction we're going, and then get your all's opinion as we make deeper and broader depths to our pyramid. I also thought, well, if we're going seasons, wouldn't it also be interesting if you have an external wall to the pyramid that is angular? Inside, it's actually a cone because the seasons are a wheel. The seasons transition smoothly, flawlessly from one to the next. It's a cycle. And so even the outside of the pyramid can appear deceptive, and hey, that falls within the realm of the Fae. So anyway, hey, cool ideas. Let's write them down. And so this is your concept page as a DM. These are your sketches. You don't have to crack open a player's handbook or a DMG or a monster manual for any of this. Use your imagination, a little creativity, and challenge yourself by asking why, what, who, that kind of a thing. This is information we know as DMs that we hope our player characters are going to figure out over the course of the dungeon. Now let me go back. All right. So again, here's the concept. I don't even have this on graph paper. If you're more methodical, use graph paper. If you're loosey-goosey, if you're a loosey-goosey DM, you're a conceptual DM, then you can draw with blank paper if you wish. Here is the outside of our pyramid. It is four-sided. And I said, all right, so that this first floor should be 80 foot by 80 foot with the outer walls. The ceilings are going to be 20 feet tall, but of course, they're going to tilt in-ish. Because inside, we're actually going to have a 70 foot diameter inner chamber. So that'll leave a little bit of a gap, right? At least 5 feet of stone at the thinnest point. Why 5 feet of stone? Or do you want 10 feet? Sure. I don't know. It's 5 feet. If you want to do things like prevent certain types of magics, 5 feet of stone can effectively do that. And if you want to do things like prevent magics looking through stones or teleporting through stones or things like that, you can put some kind of runes, some kind of magic. You can say that the rocks that were quarried to build the pyramid are very heavily laced with lead. Or you can do something like, say, this pyramid was underwater, and it needed to vent air or water or something, and so it actually had plumbing throughout the pyramid, and there's a lot of lead pipes and other structures, almost like rebar through the masonry. And of course, plumbing, it is such because the pipes used to be made of lead. That is why the chemical symbol of lead is PB for plomb, Plomb. Plomb. Gonna wander off, try and find some food. Cool. Thank you for joining us, One Crit. I appreciate your observations and your willingness to help others. I'll see you later. If not in this stream, then either on yours or in our Discord. Thank you. Yes, get goodly foods, friend. First, I had to learn them sweet periodical table facts. Yep. It's plumbing because it was made of lead, and lead is PB because it's the Latin name is plomb, Plomb. So anyway, as a DM, if you're concerned about people trying to X-ray through your dungeon walls, or even try and I don't know, like dimension door or something through them. Well, number one, what level are you running for? Is this dungeon going to be for first level adventurers? If that's the case, it could still have anti-magic runes or anti-teleportation or lead pipes or rebar or something. It's probably not going to be necessary. Super colliders, lay it on me. You got lay on me this obscure question. And by the way, as you saw here, there's some kind of a main central shaft or elevator or stairwell or something that would go to the top from the bottom. So something important is happening down here that'll lead to the top, especially because we know as a DM, we want to trap our PCs in here and make sure that they can't get out until they complete the dungeon. Why do you think lead stops magics like scrying in locations and things of this sort? Well, in science, which you could argue science is like magic, lead is a very dense element, and it stops radiation. And if you want to consider radiation a magic of sorts because it can mutate our bodies, it can kill people, it can heal people, it can X-rays let us see inside people. And so if we use lead as kind of a standard, well, if it can block radiation, and of course radiation gives us mutant powers, if the X-Men and others, Fantastic Four and the Hulk have shown us anything, if lead can stop natural radiation, lead might be able to also stop or at least hinder unnatural or maybe even natural magics. I hope that makes sense. As well, good point, just wondered. You know what, as a DM though, if you want to call it something else, then you can. Heck, you can say asbestos if you wear asbestos armor. You know, you're resistant to fire damage or something. You know, because as a mineral, it's very asbestos is an awesome insulation. It just unfortunately comes with a high propensity for lung cancer if you're breathing a lot of the dust. And of course, lead is toxic itself too. You know, well, do people know that back in these times? But by establishing lead as a magic resistant or an anti-magic element, it means that it is possible to have a commonly mined element which has many uses available to the general public to help protect them against wizards that want to fireball them. Ish. I mean, obviously a fireball is a big area of effect. Hiding behind a piece of lead won't save you, but it could, if you hide behind a piece of lead, it could keep the wizard from scrying on you or looking through the wall of your house to determine, oh, is there anyone in there I can turn into an undead thrall? And so the common man, as lead is a very ubiquitous element that you can find in the ground, for better or worse. Lead, because of its properties, is anti-magical or magical resistant for that reason. I'm glad that makes sense. If you have any other questions, and look, that wasn't obscure at all, but feel free to ask them. Okay, so here we have floor number 1. There's not really a conflict that's planned for this floor because the pyramid has presumably been uncovered for a while, and we've already established that it's been looted. Now, everyone on the street will say, yeah, the pyramid is looted. Does that mean the whole pyramid? Well, everyone is just saying the pyramid's been looted. There might be more. There could be secret treasures. Hey, there's Technotron. Technotron, I brought up and I did give you kudos and credit for the 3 Ys. as we are going over this dungeon design. Super Gliders, I have an Alchemist Blood Hunter in my campaign that basically gets to mutate himself. It's Matt Mercer homebrew, and he asbestos growing off him to block the fire damage. Neat concept, honestly, just weird. Yeah. I mean, look at the natural world around you. What insulates? What conducts? Why do you think that a component for several spells is a little piece of copper wire? In fact, if I recall correctly, it might be Shocking Grasp or another similar spell. I think it's a lower level. It's a lower level electricity spell, a lightning damage spell. Does anyone out there know why a material component for a low level electricity type spell requires a little bit of amber and a cloth? Bonus experience points for any of you who can answer that question for a material component. Dark Wolf, how many Yaunt could a Yuanti taunt if a Yuanti could taunt Yaunt? You can also probably work Haunt in there somewhere if something is daunting. Aha! Dark Wolf might be onto something. Can you explain at least a little bit more, Dark Wolf? And Technotron's on it as well. Kind of Technotron, but it's based in real life, I'll tell you that. Just as Flint and Steel is. A piece of amber and cloth is based in IRL stuff, not just a fantasy, oh, this sounds cool. That is correct. So, Dark Wolf, here, I will bring up, oh, come on. I don't want the actual, like, pure scientific. This is also, by the way, where we got a very popular phrase. If I'm recalling correctly. Oh, no, apparently that was for water level. Well, the word eureka does come from historical Greek as well. So it's not, I guess it's not, was it not Archimedes? Shoot. I'm forgetting which ancient Greek philosopher and scientist. Well, anyway, he found, so pardon me, I should remember this stuff. He found that when you rubbed a cloth on amber, it created a little bit of a field of attraction. And so this is a part of our scientific history. Well, D&D borrows heavily from our world, as you can tell by looking in the monster manual and, well, just about everywhere. And so to cast that spell, you need to simulate that very first experiment with static electricity. So you have to have a little piece of amber, and you rub it with a cloth. That's your material, and your like somatic component, and bzz, you get shocked. You shock your enemy with electricity. Plunder loot in the top 10, meow. That's Triboletric effect. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking big, you know, Archimedes or whatnot. You're saying it was Thales? Thales? If I'm not mistaken, amber in Greek is the word that gives us electron. Well, hey, we're learning more and more. Nerds! I say that with pride. So anyway, yeah, like, why do the things exist that exist around us? So here we are. We can still talk about history and static electricity and whatnot over here. Don't stop on my account. So we have our first floor of the pyramid. Thales, okay. Yeah, that does seem to make sense, right? You have Heracles, well, we have Thales. Here's the entrance, and it goes through, what, 5-10 feet of stone, depending on how much you want to make the circular cone inside of the square pyramid. It is electron for amber. Ah, there we go. Yay, nerds! That's why we love this channel. Dun 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 dun. So there's one entrance in, and you can say, look, it has doors that they've been smashed open or they're not even existent. And it even so happens, that out here there's a sign that in no current manuscript, but we want to talk about ancient Greek or Latin, it says in Primordial and Sylvan, like, beware or stay away or something. Now, these are two very obscure languages. There is a chance that your PCs might speak them. There's probably a slightly higher chance that some of your NPCs might speak Druidic, which is a take on Sylvan, or possibly Elven, which is a distant cousin. Like, we're almost talking, you know, if you're a native English speaker and someone speaks Old English to you, or you read Shakespeare without the little notes in the margin, it can almost seem like a different language. So as a DM, you say, well, look, these are written in Primordial, they're written in Sylvan. Maybe they'll use Comprehend Language to read it. If not, if they can speak Druidic or maybe Elven, then they could translate parts of the sign to give a heads up. Primordial is a mother tongue itself, though I don't know if the odds of speaking Orin, Ignan, Terran, or let's see. Orin is air, Ignan is fire, Terran is earth. What is the Aquan or Aquan? Those are like derivatives of the primordial mother tongue. But you can give them a warning if they're willing to heed it. There we go. So they come in, and then you present a grand scene. Primordial, when I DM, is literally just the sounds the respective elements make. Okay, so if you're speaking Terran, it's going to sound... Yeah, we say people have a gravelly voice. But you do have a gravelly voice if you're speaking Terran, because you have to simulate rocks grinding together. So, so if that's the case, do you not distinguish Terran from Aquan, and you just have everything as primordial? So they come in. The first thing they're going to see, like, because their vision is going to be, look, if you make these 4 long rooms, you're pointing their vision towards the central pillar. Think of this aesthetically and architecturally. This pillar is going to do something important. Now, we know its secret use as DMs, but maybe we want to instill in our players that this is it's a support pillar. Something along those lines. So everything is primordial, and the different elements are like dialects, how I do it. Okay. So if you have a rogue who can speak Ignan, and he's ready to set off a trap, it'll be like, hey, y'all, look at this! Only in primordial. Now, you'll also show a hint that there's a crate or something else here to show that this place has been plundered or could still be plundered actively. Gotcha, Super Colliders. Pretty much exactly that. I tell you what. Hotter than tarnation down here in the fire elemental plane. Hot diggity dog. So they're seeing that there is an outside presence, and they're seeing a major part of the structure itself. Around here, we have maybe a sun or a compass, or I don't know how you'd want to set it up. And this can be set apart because this could be, maybe this is all stone. This could be wood. Maybe if it's even still living wood, or it's been preserved so well. Or you want to make a mosaic. It could even be gemstones. Do you as a DM want to tempt your players? Now that said, if you make a gemstone floor and you've established that the pyramid has been looted, why has the gems not been looted? Maybe there's a trap or a surprise or something along those lines. So Ignan sounds Russian in my world? Ah, okay. The fire burns. It burns so hot. The flames, they double in size every round. It is, how do you say, intense. Very, very intense here in the fire plane. You want to set up some more clues, all right? They're not going to see what this is immediately because they have a big 20-foot column in the way. So let them explore a little bit. First to speak an elemental dialect decides what accent the dialect is in. Well, I went with your Ignan as Russian. Although I was trying to, I gave it a southern twang. So there you go, everyone. Super Colliders, leave your thumbprint on Super Colliders World. This is your opportunity. There are going to be 4 rooms around the outside. Some of them might still be preserved in their natural state. And here you can have maybe mosaics in common tile or in semi-precious stones. Around some, and even the walls, I would indicate on your map that there's rubble right here, showing that people have been trying to chip away anything of value. Little, if there's busts or statues or things along those lines. There are round doors, like portals almost, 2 into a room. Each of the rooms bears some kind of an homage to a season of the year. Now, has anyone been buried in here? Maybe. If you want to put empty sarcophagi, then you can. But they're going to be empty because, remember, this place has been looted for at least a little bit. Also, you can give hints in some ways, but if there was any precious gems or precious mosaics, they've probably been stripped down. Any banners or tapestries. Maybe your players find evidence that at one point in time, something beautiful existed in here. And maybe they get a little bit disgusted that it's been plundered. What you're doing is you're setting up the theme of the dungeon in the first floor. There's no real pressure. The door hasn't slammed shut behind them. They can leave at any time if they want. But they can see that, look, there's crates or some tools or like the open can of beans or, whatever you want to put in there, that to show that others' debris is in here from outsiders. You can set up the themes if you want to put in a riddle, an inscription, if you want to play certain music. This is your chance. This is your setup phase for your dungeon. I was hoping Ignan would be a fiery Latin accent. My Forged Domain cleric decided otherwise. And I'm sorry, Technotron, if I missed your comment of Evil Trent gone mad. Now, what they will see is they're not going to get this. This is gonna be like an elevator platform of sorts. Hey, GC, it's good to see you again. Welcome back. They will see that as part of the motif on the wall that hasn't been stripped away, right? Strip away some, leave others unattended, so that your players can get a sense of what could have been. If only we had gotten here sooner, or, oh, those plunderers. Maybe we should go back to the markets and try and track down what was stolen from here. Yeah, you could trap the gemstone floor. You want to talk about a little static shock or something. Maybe it has a little cantrip that if anyone tries to chip off a gem, it shoots a little flame at them or something. And that is also set up for what could be later to come. So anyway, they're going to see as part of the reliefs or the mosaics or something, there's a symbol that looks like this sunburst on the wall, but it extends out. So it's obviously something different. And there's some kind of a machine or a crank that's next to it. The two aren't connected. Or they are. Again, it's up to you. And the reason for this is you want them to experiment, and they're going to turn the wheel, and a platform is going to come down from the second floor to the first. And this is a platform that could fit a sarcophagus and several people, an entire party, maybe a cart or something, to show that there's an active way to get to the next floor up. Now, of course, your players are going to say, well, all right, so if someone has to man the wheel, how are we all going to get to the second floor? And that's a very good question. In fact, Technotron, it's not a why necessarily, but if you want to have something like this, how would this operate? And I guarantee you that the adventurers, especially if the place has been plundered, aren't the first ones to ask that question or to try and discover it. And it turns out that there are other plunderers in this temple right now. They have hooked up a kind of a crank machine. Maybe it has like a big spring inside that you wind up. So you crank, and you ka-ching over to the wheel. And then, so you could lower the platform manually. Everyone gets aboard. Someone ka-chings the wound up spring, and slowly the machine will then crank up the platform. That way, everyone on the first floor can make it to the second floor without having to leave someone behind. Especially, and look, you should be considerate of magic users, even if you don't want them to dimension door or teleport or whatever through one floor to the next. You have to still enable creativity, or if you want to say that your arcane checks are also a technology check, this way you're not disabling your wizard, and your wizard's like, all right, well, just call me when the session's over. I guess I'm totally useless in here. So your wizard can figure out, this is a big wind-up spring. Crank. And then they bring it over, and it engages with the spokes of the sunburst. And so as the spring unwinds, the machine will just continually wind up, and the platform goes up. So now, congratulations. They've solved a little bit of a puzzle, and they've come up with the theme of your dungeon. So hopefully they were paying attention to what was happening. In fact, now that we have something like this, I'm going to go over to the more of the mechanical. Because there is a mechanical dungeon. There we go. So here's your intent. You want to set up the theme for the dungeon and the details. You want evidence. You want to leave evidence of the primordial language in Sylvan to match the outside. That way there's proof that the people who put the warnings up on the outside of the pyramids are the ones who also built or are interred or living or whatever inside the pyramid too. Now that we're over here, congratulations, we've made it to the second floor. Now, the platform was up here, if we want to call this north, okay? If it's in the north, they are going to come up in the north. And what your players are going to see is they're coming up in a little dome, in like a little dome area, okay? Now, there's a crank up here that that can also be used to lower people down. And while there's not a machine up here, maybe they can figure out how to crank the elevator back down or allow for everyone to go down. Maybe if it uses gravity, it's just a slow, like a ratchet release or something like that. So they come up to the second floor and they notice, it is bitterly cold up here. In fact, if you wanted to even describe that as they ascend, or even just in this area, it feels like cold air is pouring down from above. So they come up here and, it is bitterly cold. And they see that inside this room, there might be ice crystals, and there could still continue to be mosaics depicting bare trees, frozen lakes, something along those lines. Maybe there's a picture of a sun, and but the sun is like super small. And why would you have that? I'll get to that in a second. Bear with me. They hear a scream. Ah! If you have a soundboard on your phone, and you don't know what the Wilhelm scream is, look up the Wilhelm scream. The Modron at the 6th level would be so proud. That'd be an interesting Modron, because this is a Fey-themed dungeon, Technotron. But thank you, and by the way, Modron, I think, are underused, underappreciated monsters. Kruger, yo, welcome. So they come up, it's super cold, but there's no time to examine it. Don't worry about that right now. Come on, players. Wilhelm scream. Ah! They come outside, and they see that there's a looter who's dead. And they see that there's one who gets drug into the other room, and the door closes. And I would imagine their natural propensity, but you can't always count on that, is to come over to this other door right next door. And they'll like, hey, are you in there? Are you okay? And maybe someone, if they get like an absurdly high but still reachable for their level perception, might hear some sort of a clue as to what's going on in there, which probably isn't pretty. So there's a dead body. Look at the Discord. Believe monster name is Lord Ajax. Okay, I'll take a look here real quick. Oh, gotcha. Nice, Gyanga. So that was the helmet that you designed, and you put it on a centaur with a flaming spear at that. I like that, and the red plume at the top. That's a good touch. So it's almost like a centaur that is the horse body is made of a nightmare, and I'm not talking about the bad dream. I'm talking about the fiery horse known as the nightmare. It's like a nightmare centaur. Very interesting. Death Count, good evening to you. Or for those of you who are in the UK, good morning. Gyanga, that is cool. And you're calling that Lord Ajax. Or Ajax. With the accent. There you go. There's a little fiery heart. Volvo's not here, but he did ask a random question. Is the name Lofwehr German, and what does the name mean? So if any of you out there know, I'll retype this for Volvo. Is the name Lofwehr German, or I'll put Germanic, And what does the name mean? If any of you out there can help. I made the helmet. Yeah. See, Gyung, if you in storytelling, and this is the same with D&D, start small, and one idea will grow, and that idea will grow and grow and grow and grow. What you did is an example of Dungeons and Dragons, Gyonga. Derek says, so encountered something that made everyone lose 20 years of age, which hurt the young fighter paladin Barbs. But with Baxter, he went to his physical prime when he was lifting caskets barehanded. So now it's a 17 strength shovel slayer necromancer. Oh, wow. What, so what de-aged your characters? That's interesting. Lord Swole Baxter. Oh, bubonic one. Shadowrun wiki. So bubonic one, if you want to share that on the Discord and make sure to tag Volvo, he might like to see that. Otherwise, it could be, I don't know, with a name like Lolfweir, I don't know if that's necessarily Germanic. It sounds a little bit more Nordic. So I wish Nanavi or Party Gnome or oh, we have some other people up in like Norway and Denmark and such. Oh, you think it sounds Celtic? So Anglo-Saxon, Loaf is beloved and Weir is lord, probably. All right, if you all can go over to Table Talk on our Discord here, would you be able to answer Volvo's? Shoot, it's a little. It's on the bottom. Volvo729 asked that question. Can you paste your answers and give him an @ symbol at Volvo, and share that info with him? I like that Lord Swole Baxter. Okay, so they come out. There's the Wilhelm scream. Someone gets drug into a kind of a like a hemispherical into a hemispherical chamber. Now, mind you, they don't see what's in the middle of this floor. They just see there's a hallway, and that there are these domes around the outside. Well, now they have to figure out what's going on. Well, the person who is drug inside perhaps dropped something that could be a clue, or the person who died as well. The concept to this floor, right? We had the seasons that were down below, and everything, everything flowed in a nice circle. Pardon me. The concept here is going to be a puzzle. There are 12 chambers for 12 months. Now, if your game world has less or more, make less or more. For instance, my game world has 10 months. So I would modify this slightly. So you have 12 months here. I'm kind of using a standard concept. Every chamber represents 1 month. And the point of the puzzle that your players will have to figure out is flanking every portal are 2 little fountains. One produces water, and so there's a face up here with hands like this. An open mouth, and it pools water in the hands. Have a great day, Gyunga. Thank you for sharing your art. I'll see you back here in the channel and on Discord. You're awesome, dude. Thank you. Dr. Freakface, hello. On the other side of every portal is an open mouth, but it's tilted up as if receiving water. And so, every single chamber is going to produce a different kind of water. And it's going to be up to your players to determine, well, that, and also the order in which the water goes. Now, you gave them a clue. Their first clue, it's if we're doing January through December. I know we're using a Gregorian calendar in D&D, just roll with it for the concept. They're up here, and this is the January room. So the water that's produced is going to be ice cold. And you can put some other kinds of clues in the water. In fact, maybe even little pieces of ice also are dispensed with the water. And so they say, ooh, this water is super cold, it makes ice. Okay, and the motif inside the room was very bitterly cold. Well, now, if they came over, this person made the mistake of taking the water from, maybe from number 1. That's the clue. Like, the water that he was pouring was incorrect. And so the water on the floor is very cold, or there's a piece of ice that's melting slowly. Well, if you put January's water in September's room, no, that's not the natural order of things. And so he went to the bad place, right? He upset the room. And so something happened. This looter now demonstrated to the party what they have to do. 1 water goes to 2 mouth. 2 water goes to 3 mouth, and so on and so forth. The water tastes like blood. It has a lot of iron in it. Well, there's going to be a similar effect, Technotron. If you get to maybe into an autumn month, because the trees shed their leaves and the leaves fall in the water will take on a reddish or a brownish tint. And that's going to be a clue to your players. So the water produced by maybe October's fountain will be almost tea-colored, or even have a little bit of a leaf floating in it. Now, if they answer incorrectly, it's going to prompt an attack. Now, this was whatever. It's a level 1 looter or something. He was insta-killed, and he was demonstrating the mechanics of the dungeon. But let's say that they take January's, because look, some months might have cold water. You can't necessarily go off that alone. So what if they take January's water over to, what if they go around this way, and they're like, oh, it goes here. Because 12, December's water is also cold, instead of bringing it over to February. Well, this is going to prompt an attack by an appropriate monster. You can theme that monster, well, to the level. I would even suggest using something like Mephits. Mephits are wonderful little elementals that are not just water or fire, but they tend to span 2 different concepts. And so you can have some appropriately themed monster come out and attack them or spawn because they got it incorrect. So the more incorrect answers they make, even if everyone at the table is like, I'm not good at puzzles, we're just going to do trial and error, they can grind through the puzzle as an alternative, but it's going to cost them resources. It's going to cost them hit points, healing spells, that kind of a thing. Yep, Tannen's in the water, Technotron. And Upos goes from hell to hello. Hello to you too, Upos. Actually, Upos, you might be able to answer a question if you didn't catch it already on our Discord here. And by the way, Dr. Freakface, welcome to our Discord as well. Someone on our Discord had asked, is the name Lofweir Germanic, and what does the name mean? I know you're not in Germany, but being from that part of the world, do you have extra input as opposed to what has been shared up here so far? All right, so inside a properly opened area is a room simulating that month. Various treasures could be looted if wanted, and will still, and that will prompt an attack as well. Okay, well, I figure it's worth asking. You're a little bit more geographically closer to an origin for that name, or at least, even if it's a fantasy name, to a conceptual origin. So, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Upos, but I thought you're like, oh yeah, that's someone or something. So yes, here's the puzzle: 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and hey, we have these two close together. 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, also close together, but going the opposite direction. 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, and 11 to 12. When they complete the puzzle by putting the month's water in the proper dish, then taking the water and putting it in the next dish, that is going to reveal not only another cold room, but a spiral staircase going up. Anyone who lets out the Wilhelm scream was a level 1 red shirt. Yeah, that's true, Chemist, and so that will help reinforce that the looters are just expendable. Oh, so King found perhaps an origin here. Very cool. So we explored the origin of static electricity and the name of a fantasy character. Now, in order to help your players learn the clues, I would associate them being able to use different skills to try and ascertain the nature of the water and perhaps which month it belongs to. For example, if they want to find clues, they can use nature, knowledge nature, survival, or perhaps even perception. Some of them might have access to various divination spells. They could possibly, if they have the Outlander background, that gives them kind of a latent foraging ability. A ranger might also have a natural ability or some kind of a talent or a trait as a ranger. So it's not an impossible puzzle, but what you'd be doing is explaining, so in this pool of water produced is a small fish swimming around. And so you have someone saying, oh, I want to roll nature. And they roll nature and they pass your DC. So this is the silver minnow. Silver minnows only spawn in April. Aha. So this is April's water. This is 4's water. And so then again, you go over into autumn, and one of the mouths has like a red or a brown or like it looks like tea that's coming out. And so from the smell of the water, maybe someone has cooking utensil proficiency, therefore indicating they're a culinarian. Be creative with it. But then they can say, all right, so this is for sure an autumnal water, right? This is water from the fall. Which season? You'll have to, and then you as a DM say, well, you're going to have to make a skill check to determine. But it does seem to be, it does seem that trees have shed their leaves, and the leaves have colored the water here. So you have something kind of creepy, and inside is the possibility, if they want, you can put treasure inside each of these rooms. Now, the treasure itself is supposed to be the beautiful depictions of the interior of the room. Right? January's is kind of barren because there's not much there in January, and even if there was, the looters for sure got this as a freebie by going up the lift. So in each of these, they can behold beautiful statues or mosaics, or maybe there's a tapestry or art pieces that are carved and appropriate for the month. If the art pieces are taken, that will artificially cause a fight, because they're supposed to be enjoyed for what they are, not looted. And so your PCs might have avoided a fight by guessing correctly at the door, or they can trigger it if they are loot happy. And again, you leave the choice to your PCs. Do you want to diminish your party resources by looting and getting into fights, or do you want to take in the aesthetics of that month's room and continue on until you've solved the puzzle completely? King says, I'm in the January room. Whoever comes in here, I immediately power word kill. I hope you enjoy having your birthday really close to Christmas. Yeah, isn't that the case? You're born so close to Christmas that you get everything just kind of gets squished together into one. I'm a September baby, so I have a good bit of distance between the two. All right, so that's floor 2, and they find that a spiral staircase, you can even make it a plant if you want. If you look at something in nature, look at this. This is called a fiddlehead fern. So if this is a Fey-themed temple, you could even have these fiddleheads. You could have a big fiddlehead fern uncoil downwards and act as a spiral staircase. And yes, by the way, I've had them. Fiddleheads are good to eat. You saute them a little bit. It's good stuff. So yeah, if you want to keep up with the Fey theme, even be something kind of creepy, you can have a fiddlehead descend down as a spiral staircase. Otherwise, if you want a stone one or something else, feel free to substitute that in. Upos, my sister, on the 19th of December, and you're 2 weeks after Christmas, says King. Every year it's Christmas, New Year's, my birthday. So that's quite that's quite the extended party or the binger. Yeah, you could use your half birthday, Technotron. Yeah, a Fey dungeon. Your brother's January 3rd. And now we're in the uppermost, so it's the smallest, right? We went from 80 feet, 60 feet, 40 feet, but remember, 20 feet of this is taken by this central column that does something. So now the fiddlehead or whatever bears everyone up, and the floor seals. Gulp, we're trapped. Oh no, we can't escape. We can't teleport out of here because of reasons. Someone went out and made Stardew Valley real. Nope, that's, fiddlehead ferns are a thing. There is actually, I think you can still get them. I think there's a farm in Huron, that actually sold fiddlehead ferns. They're as real as you make them. Someone went out and made Stardew Valley real. Try planting grass in the ground. It'll actually grow, just like in the game. IRL, the hit new MMORPG. Alright, so the stairs close after everyone is up. Everyone clenches up. They may or may not have already experienced battle. So all that's in here is, well, the pillar and on the other side. So you're forcing them to have to walk around and experience a little bit of the room. And this is going to be important. They're going to have to experience a little bit of the room, and then they say, oh, there's something else. There's an altar of some kind. As they walk around the room, you have different motifs, mosaics, things that show perhaps what has been seen before, right? You have the seasons, except now they are, perhaps they're magical. Perhaps it's moving. You don't just see a tree, like it's caught in time with this beautiful, like, some leaves, autumnal leaves. You actually see the leaves coming down. Things up here are a little bit more real or unreal or illusory or whatever you want to make them out to be. And this starts building tension. Maybe as you get close to a winter scene, your fingers begin to chill. So these are, if these are illusions, these are big time illusions. In fact, these are illusions that might even give the tip of your finger a chance at some frostbite if you get too close for too long. So now there's this altar, and all your players are going to go, oh, an altar. I see where this is going. The altar, through the clues that you provide, is going to require a sacrifice of the monthly waters. Hey, did we carry any of those monthly waters up with us? No, we didn't? Oh, darn. And, or if you want, you can say and or. Time, monthly waters or time. Well, how do you offer time? There is an aging effect inside of the game. Actually, it's very auspicious that Derek was talking about him reverting back to a youthful character. In the game, there are certain monsters like ghosts that can artificially age you forward in time. I'm going to need a lot of seasoning salt for this dungeon. Well, hopefully it's not too salty. Super Gliders, also a moment of silence in the chat for my fallen rogue, Ralthrin. He saw a few gold rings on the ground in the forest and was engulfed by a shambling mound. Snuck away from the party too, so they didn't know he needed help. Oh man, he paid the price. JWoody50, thank you for following along. I hope you're enjoying what we're talking about in chat in the presentation of the dungeon. So, there's a clue that maybe there's like 12 dishes in the top of the altar, and your characters might have brought some extra up. And if that's the case, and that's what you wanted, hey, there you go. They offer it. And or, there's they have to sacrifice time, meaning that they have to give up time of their life to this altar if they want to get the treasure, get out, survive, do something. Is 10 years of your life worth, are you willing to give up 10 years of your life if it means safely escaping this dungeon? What are you willing to pay? And or how resourceful were you in bringing extra water up? Not that you knew that you'd need it. Your PCs would probably have no clue. But some PCs like to compulsively collect anything that they can. And unfortunately, as Super Colliders demonstrated, that includes little gold rings that shambling mounds are baiting stray rogues with. I felt bad for the guy, but he was shifty, and now maybe he won't be. Oh, jeez. Yep, Technotron, rest in pepperonis, Wraithrin. He said he wasn't making a rogue ever again. Well, alright, look. Is it the rogue's fault? Or is it his fault for being a greedy rogue? Still, though, what a trap. Alright, so what's going to happen here? Especially if your players have avoided a fight this long, you got to give them a bloody nose or a bloody lip here. They have to know that there's going to be some serious stuff. Otherwise, they're not going to be prepared for what they're going to get in the other half of the dungeon. It was his fault, but he blames the class. Yeah, isn't that convenient? So, refusal to offer to the altar will then make the room upset, and they're going to try and get the offering one way or the next. Yes, shambling mounds are very sneaky and very lethal. Especially because you're like, oh, fire! Fire will take care of a shambling mound. It's vegetation. I've played Pokemon. I know how this goes. So the battle here is going to be up to you, depending on the level at which you want to run this dungeon. I suggest, right here, I should have them. There we go. Mephits. Mephits are fun if they're CR 1/2, so you can run up just a big swarm of them for a higher level party, or if they're lower level, these are appropriate. But you have Mephits that are kind of a mix of elements, right? You have mud and magma and ice. So this isn't necessarily like water and earth or something along those lines. They can be mixes, or they can straddle the line. And it's still appropriate to what we're exploring here in this Fey Pyramid. So you can have like a bunch of mephits that you probably saw inside the mosaic, which is why it's important to get your characters to look around before they see the altar and run up to it. They might see these creatures lurking, watching even. Or if you want to run something higher level and you want to put out elementals themselves, those tend to be level 5. Though you get variants like the Invisible Stalker, that's, I think, at least a CR 6 or 7, I think. But they will come out of the mosaics, and they'll try and extract the price from the people who dared to come up this way without the sacrifice. As well, you don't have to worry about making just the battle lethal. Especially if you want to go the mephit route, make an environmental concern a hazard. Maybe every round, because you've established that cycles and seasons are a big part of this place. It starts in summer, and so everyone takes X amount of fire damage this turn because it's summertime. If you want to do something like unavoidable damage, be careful, because that can lead to a lot of deaths, right? If you say, well, a rogue can't even evasion out of this because the entire room is filled with heat or microwaves or whatever, just realize that can kill off players easily. If you just say guaranteed damage and you're like, oh, I'm going to make it like a damage roll. I'm going to roll like 2d10 plus a modifier. If you're going to have unavoidable damage, make it low and consistent, because you know you're going to get it every turn no matter what. And this would mean that prepared clerics or druids or other people who have resistance spells would have an opportunity to try things. Those who have other resistances might get to help as well. Hakora, thank you for the auto host, by the way. As well, you don't have to just deal damage. For instance, so let's say that you do just medium fire damage, right? It's just damage in the summer. Well, in the fall, there's a lot of winds, right? The weather's changing, and you get powerful storms. So maybe it deals a light force damage or no damage, but it scatters everyone. Then you just roll. Everyone is pushed and blown around in a random direction. And so that's not necessarily a damage hazard, but that can definitely mess with combat and positioning. And you're making it thematic to that season or that element. Winter comes around. Not an easy one, it's just static cold damage. Spring comes around. Well, maybe it deals sonic damage that's light because it's a thunderstorm, and for that turn, everything is obscured because it's raining or something inside. It's raining inside this room, and so any ranged attacks, whether they're magical or mechanical, have disadvantage because of the rain. Those are all battlefield conditions. Look, have any of you played Smash Brothers? Take those concepts and put them in your D&D fights. They make them fun and dynamic. Let's see. Super Collider says, the one time I used ice mephits, my wizard chain lightninged like 100 of them. Well, I mean, they are little gribblies. They are going to die easily, but they have their own fun, interesting effects if you don't want to buff them. Upos Fall is necrotic. Falling, decaying leaves also decay those they fall upon. Upo, yeah, you could do that too if you wanted. Think what would be appropriate for the season, right? You gave them so many clues down below. Build on them. But don't always just think of damage as the type of hazard or punishment. Especially if you have defensive fighters who require being 5 feet away from someone. If you have wizards, like Super Collider said, who have to line up their lightning bolt, right? If you scatter everyone because wind blew them all around, you have really challenged the party to get back into formation and keep fighting. And so in this sense, they're almost battling the effects of the room, not so much the mephits. The mephits are just around to harass them. Now, how many mephits do they have to kill? That's up to you. You're the DM. Do they have to go, or do they have to survive? Let's say that the clue was that you have to give up 10 years of your life. Then that means they have to survive. They have to survive 10 rounds or I'm sorry, like 10 cycles inside here. And so the mephits will keep spawning, and so really to win, all you have to do is survive 10 years inside the chamber. So don't overwhelm them with damage and mephits and whatnot, but you make it a survival technique. If you want a battle, you can make it a battle. Make them have to fight off 10 years worth of mephits or something like that. Oh yeah, super gliders, I'd be proud too. Look, if you're playing pool as a wizard and you get that awesome shot where that line just, it goes through everything. One thing I do have some trouble with as a DM, my players try to circumnavigate a lot of my encounters. How do you counter that? By the environmental effects, colliders. Or are you talking about just avoiding them altogether, not just getting around or trying to get out of combat? And in either case, can you provide an example to help support? I'm on edge here. I want to know what Super Colliders is gonna put as an example. Although while he's doing that, so this was the setup that I have for the pyramid so far. Okay, here's our 3 floors, and then there's a basement. Now, if you just want to keep it at that, and then they win, they can go back up and escape. You can cut your dungeon off right there if you really want. What I'd like to do is I think I'm going to take a break, like a 5-10 minute break, and then come back. We are in part 3. If you want to talk about something else, we can. Although I would like your all's opinions on how we can now descend down into the pyramid, right? We've shown now that there is lethality and sacrifice, and everything isn't beautiful and nature-y all the time. Until we get down to the final level where we're going to have a mummy waiting for them, but a special one. Let's compliment. Hey, I'm loving the stream. You're doing such a great job. I'm off to continue my mission of spreading positivity. Have a great day. Well, let's compliment. That's an awesome quest that you are on. Thank you for dropping in and saying something. I appreciate that. The Bloody Torchic is finally here too. Well, hello and goodbye to Let's Compliment, and hello and welcome to Bloody Torchic. Super Colliders, if you want to help show that avoiding everything it is a solution, but if that's not the best solution, then what you do is you just introduce consequences. If you say that the evil general is on his way and he has to be stopped, and the players are like, well, we don't want to fight the evil general, we just want to get to the next town, but we don't want to have to go through his checkpoint. Let's sneak around the checkpoint and we'll totally avoid this combat. Okay, you can do that. Unfortunately, 5 days later, they learn that the evil general continued his march down the road and sacked the city that was behind him. And that wouldn't have happened if he wasn't stopped on the road. Now, if you're presenting it neutrally and not spitefully, if it makes sense for the story, if they knew that the general was this kind of a person, they had the opportunity to stop him on the road, and instead they ignored it and continued on. Yes, it took time, but there's repercussions. The evil general destroyed the city behind him and is going to continue to destroy cities until he's taken care of. If your players don't care that cities are being destroyed, you need to look at the scope of your campaign and say, are we playing an evil campaign, or what did I seed as a DM that's more important than preventing the destruction of so many cities? when it could have been prevented so many levels ago. By the way, Chemison, thank you again for the bits. That means a lot to me. I appreciate your support, and that I'm able to give you, and not just me, I mean, maybe as the face. I'm not the prettiest face here, but but with everyone here, we're able to give you support, information, and entertainment, and we can answer your questions. Super Colliders, a lot of time it's neutral presentation. Upo says, Super Colliders' main problem is that the players have no reason to attack those mini encounters. They'll only lose resources before they can get to the main fight. Give them reasons to engage the mini fights. They gotta kill the high-ranking official, perhaps, but he has a couple doppelgangers and only his subordinates know who's real. Ooh, that's a good one. You know, a lot of people, like generals or kings or people or other people like that, will use body doubles, even non-magical or non-monstrous ones, to try and distract or to cause confusion. Time constraints could be a good challenge to a stealthy party. One episode I had ran a dragon circling overhead, and the players had to be constantly aware of avoiding its patrol and getting their objective done. King offers advice to Super Colliders. Evil Warlord would probably have contingencies in place to handle warfare in your setting, including crossbow snipers. Whether or not this takes the form of having a series of underground tunnels and never popping his head above the ground, or he has a few interns refreshing wind wall every few hours. Ivalon throws in his hat to the arena. My first question to you, because I prefer the Socratic method of helping, is why do you think your players have to fight everything? Super Glider's answer is, I don't. I think they have to fight some things. Yeah, I understand then information, additional resources. So in that case, it just, on the back end, it turns into consequences. You know, they learn that they could have avoided a terrorist bombing if only they grabbed the orders or the bomb-making plans or something from the camp that they actually snuck around and didn't encounter. So there's proactive advice that you all gave, which is very good, and there's reactive methods that you can do as well to help shape future behavior. Okay, I'm going to take a break. I'll be back in a little bit, and we'll be in part 3, open discussion, but if you're up for it, I would like your help in building the final 3 levels of this pyramid dungeon based on what we've prompted so far.